Hi, welcome back. My name is Jair Torres and I'm now presenting Module 6.2. We're going to be discussing about the Comprehensive School Safety Assessment Suite. So this comprehensive School Safety Assessment Suite is something that has been prepared by the different partners of the Global Alliance for Disaster Risk Reduction and Resilience in the Education Sector, with the particular goals to develop a suite of tools to monitor and encourage progress toward school safety. There are actually targeting the different pillars of the comprehensive school safety framework, but also the enabling environment that will be important in order to secure school safety. Also, the second goal is to promote and support the use of the comprehensive school safety assessment suite of tools to achieve stakeholder targets and objectives that has been that we have been discussing in Module 1 and in Module 2, and that are linked to the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, the Sustainable Development Agenda, notably SDG 4. So this assessment suite is composed by different tools that are non-technical and that are technical and that can be integrated in different elements. We're going to be discussing here only about the tools that are pre-disaster. So it's all of the tools that we can use to really prevent, mitigate, and try to protect and secure school safety. So on the non-technical stuff, we have the comprehensive school safety, policy survey. So talking about more on the enable environment and the need to assess what are the different elements that we have on policy, directive, strategies, etc., and how they are aligned with the different agendas and how they also are aligned with the strategies that we would like in order to secure school safety. Then another application that is called the first step, that is more a raising awareness application, a self-assessment that normally is provided and is developed by the school itself, so by the school community itself, and household safety and resilience plans that goes beyond the school, that is talking more about the community and about how the integration of the different elements that not only at the schools but the families understand. And then we have more technical tools that will provide us with more elements that are more related to the infrastructure itself, so to pillar 1 of the comprehensive school safety framework. So we have the GLOSSY, that is the global library that has been produced by the colleagues of the World Bank and their Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, and the VISUS methodology that we're going to be discussing in the next modules and that will be presented by Dr. Petra Malizan. So the tools that we are presenting now are really designated for saliency, so that they're relevant to the comprehensive school safety framework, for scalability, so that they can be designed for universal applications, of course with the different adaptations that we need for different contexts, sustainability, so that we can really rely on local capacities and not on the dependence of external resources, but that on the dependence of the resources and the capacities that we can create in the different contexts that we have. The effectiveness, so with outputs usable for planning action. So the idea is not only to have a tool that will give us a number and that's it, but a tool that will provide us guidance that will provide elements for guidance about what are the strategies that we should be developing for efficiency and affordability. So in order that we can use it with the limited resources that we have at the Ministers of Education, and empowerment rather than being extractive. So the idea is that communities, governments, schools, communities, universities can get involved. And as we mentioned in Module 2, when we were talking about the Partnership for Systemic Risk, that we understand that the school safety covers all the areas of the society and that everybody has a role to play here. So the first tool that I want to present today is the CSS Policy Survey. So this is something that there is a paper that is in the suggested reading that I will recommend about this policy surveys that we do. The idea of the policy surveys is to monitor progress in national school safety policy for evidence-based planning and decision making. The idea is that we can have a quick overview of the strengths and gaps in the comprehensive school safety policy at national level, but also at local level, in order that we can track progress over time in terms of policy and they compare results across countries, especially in particular regions, so that we can have different elements that we can compare. This policy survey, we has been developed by the RISRED, by Save the Children, and by GFDRR. And we suggest from GADRES that it will be developed once every 2-3 years, in order that we can have, the different elements in order to see what are the elements on policy that are working good, that are not working good, that we need to reassess, that we need to re-implement, to redesign, and in order to secure that we have the necessary policy on the environment, the naval environment, that will allow us the implementation of actions to securing school safety. So this is one of the first non-technical tools that we have. Then on the second non-technical tools, we have the child-centered social accountability and participatory risk governance advocacy and awareness tools. That is what we call the step one. So that is a school watch. So this is a tool that was developed as well by Save the Children and RISRED. The idea of this tool is more about raising awareness. So it's a kind of a self-assessment that can be implemented by students, by teachers, by parents in the schools, and that we allow to try to raise some of the ideas about the importance of infrastructure, the importance of disaster risk management, the importance of education, the importance of policy, and the different elements of the comprehensive school safety framework, in order that, at the school level, you raise awareness about these different elements, and that you can have a good initial point to bring the subject of the assessment, but also to bring the subjects about what school safety is. So as we say, this is something that normally is a tool that is an Android and iOS smartphone application, and is used for advocacy and awareness campaign. So this is something that is more on a raising awareness tool, but that can be very important, in order to secure some kind of understanding about what school safety is, involving kids, involving students, involving teachers, involving the whole community. The good thing about these things is that you have 15 questions that will cover different elements about hazard exposure, vulnerabilities, about school disaster management, risk reduction and resilient education. So the elements of the comprehensive school safety framework. And after you have finished with the 15 questions, and you can add pictures and you can have different elements like GIS, you can the tool will provide you with elements in order that you can really analyze and go deeper on the analysis of this. So I would recommend that if you have the time to download the application. It's called First Step or School Watch, and you can find it on Android or iOS, and you can start playing with it and doing some activities at the school level if you would like to do it. Then for a third non-technical tool is the comprehensive school safety self-assessment. So notably, the self-assessments is those assessments that are developed by non-technical people on different elements of the comprehensive school safety framework, on the different three pillars, and that what tries to see is from the own community, from the own school community, it tries to provide a good understanding about what is going on, but without going very deep. This is very interesting because in a way it pushes this non-technical data collation down to the school level and does not require site visits from external experts. And it can be also useful in order to determine how we are doing in terms of of the learning facilities, in terms of the disaster risk management, in terms of the education, but not in a deep analysis itself, but in a self-assessment. The good thing about this tool that was created by RISRED and Save the Children is that enable rapid access and use of the data for planning and decision making at the school, subnational and national levels. So why? Because when you are developing this self-assessment, this information can be provided to the local authorities that can take this information in order to analyze it and determine where really technical assessments will be required in a priority. So that is something that can be related not only to the self-assessment to the school, but that can provide decision makers at local level, at the national level, with elements in order that they can start planning for technical analysis. We recommend that this tool will be applied annually, and the good thing is that, as I mentioned before, enables rapid prioritization of schools that need technical inspection But we're gonna see that later on about, how we're gonna organize this kind of technical inspections. Then another tool that we have is the last tool that has been prepared by the Global Alliance, is the is the Family Household Safety and Resilience Planning and Guidance. So this FSRP is a tool to support action at the household level for better risk awareness, risk reduction, and response preparedness. It's based on the publication that we present later on Module 5, when we were discussing about non-formal education, about public awareness and public education for disaster risk reduction, action-oriented key measures for family and school safety, that was produced by IFRC together with Save the Children. So it's a tool that helps us to understand better not only how the community, the school community understand school safety, but also how in the households they understand it. And it's quite interesting because that gives us more elements, not only about the school itself, but about the whole context of the school that is there, but it's more related to disaster risk reduction education, awareness, consciences about what can be affected the schools, and how people are known about what are the different elements that they need to implement at the time that a disaster strikes. Then passing to the technical tools. So the first tool that I'm going to present here is the GLOSSY, that is the Global Library of School Infrastructure, that was developed recently by the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery of the World Bank. And this GLOSSY library provides a different catalog of building types, on which one they have been collecting different taxonomies of buildings that they have found worldwide, and based on that taxonomy of buildings and catalogized, they have created fragility and vulnerability curves. That is a very technical issue, but is in a way that the vulnerability curves or fragility curves let us know this specific typology, how much it will resist, notably to hurricanes or to earthquakes, how that specific structure will resist, and what will be the level on which one the structure will not resist anymore. So we can understand more technicalities about these things. So this GLOSSY has a set of tools and an evidence-based knowledge and data related to understanding and assessing the vulnerability of school infrastructure in a more holistic way. And when I'm talking about holistic way, this is a tool that notably is used in a probabilistic way in order to determine, based on information of data mining, for instance, knowing some few schools and understanding that the typology of a specific region or a specific country will be similar to that, trying to understand, for instance, the budget requirements and allocations that we will need at the global envelope that it will be required. It provides data for the education sector on exposure, risk damage, and risk of death due to earthquakes and cyclones. So it's very particular for two specific hazards, geological hazards and hydrometeorological hazards. It provides a data collection tools to collect the data on demographics, physical structure, and functional conditions of school facilities, and and that will be related to that taxonomy of classification that they have developed. It also provides a building type catalog with technical information on common representative school building types, which I mentioned before, that include the fragility curves, and also some strategies about some appropriate actions or interventions that will be required to that specific typology of building based on an understanding on how to solve this specific problem. So this is a very technical tool that is more need to be used by really high technical specialized people, but as I will mention later on, is based more on a probabilistic analysis in order to determine what will be the required budget or allocation that we will need in order to really secure some of the interventions that we have, but more on the estimation part of it. And then we will have VISUS, that is a detailed safe appraisal of school facilities to identify safety situation at great needs and cost estimates, but that it is based on a triage aspect. I'm not going to go very deep on this because the next section you're going to have all the VISUS methodology presented to you. But the only thing that I want to say to you here is that the outcomes of VISUS provide decision makers with all of the technical base for the development of safety upgraded actions of learning facilities, considering a large number of schools. And why? And this is why I want to present to you the different approaches between statistical and probabilistic and deterministic approaches of these two technical approaches that we have been developed. There are some pros and there are some cons in every one of these approaches. For instance, on the statistical and probabilistic, you can have for sure a global idea of what it could happen in general for the overall portfolio of the school. So for instance, when you have an issue, that is the case of Peru, when you have an issue of specific typologies that were built before the building codes, they realized that they have problems with short column. And based on a sample, and knowing that statistically these kind of typologies are all around the country, they could determine what will be the impacts that could have in the whole portfolio of schools in the country. And based on that, they say, like, look at, if we have this number of schools in Peru, and if we have this problem, and we know that most of the schools have this kind of typology, so we can have an understanding about what could happen and about how much it will cost in general to try to secure the safety of those schools. The problem here, and the con that we can say here, is that when you go to the intervention of the schools, but you don't have specific information on the single school, so you need to actually assess that specific school, that this is something that happened in different programs. So you have a good envelope of understanding about what will be the general problems. You have a good envelope about the resources that you will need to solve that problems. But when you go school by school, you will need to assess that school in order to determine what are actually the elements that produce weakness in that specific school. In the contrary, that is the deterministic approach. So it provides detailed information about what could happen to each single school. This is the case of Japan that I was presenting on the previous module, on which one they spent 15 years in order to determine all the different elements that will happen on all of the schools. The problem here is that you will have a lot of information that is very pertinent, and you have information for a school. So you know each school, you have all the information needed about how it's going to behave for a very specific hazards, what are the elements in the structure, on the non-structural elements, etc., etc. The problem here, as it was the case of Japan, is that if you want to cover a very large number of buildings in details, it will take too much time and requires a lot of resources, and we know that we have limited resources when we are doing school assessments. So what has happened here? So in the statistical probabilistic analysis, so normally what happens is that you select between your whole community, you select a few samples, and based on that sample, you determine what could happen and what will be the impacts. Then you have the deterministic, that is very costly because you spend a lot of time in order to assess all of the schools in a very detailed way. So this is the way how UNESCO say, look at, we need to try to find something between them. So between the statistical and probabilistic, that will give us a lot of information in order to start, but in the deterministic, because we would like that everybody will have the human and financial resources that Japan have, but this is not the case. So we need to have something that will be in the middle in order that we can know school by school what are the weaknesses of each school, and then determine it with a rapid visual assessment and doing a triage, which are the schools on which one I really need to go in a more deep analysis. So this is the way how VISUS has been conceived in order to be not in the statistical probabilistic data mining and understanding on the whole context, but not in the other side, on which when you go really very, very, very detailed in each of the schools, that will require a lot of engineers, that will require a lot of resources, that will require a lot of times, and with something that will be rapid and that will determine and flag those buildings that will require a detailed inspection. Like that, you save time, save resources, and you will have information of all of the schools that you have on your country, but at the same time, you have information and strategies that can be developed in order to secure the safety of those schools that will not need deep technical analysis, while providing information that can be linked to the education management information system. So With this, I finish the presentation on Module 6.2. My colleague, Dr. Petra Malisan, will be explaining the VISUS methodology, and we really hope that you have been enjoying until now Module 6. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy the whole VISUS methodology, and we will see each other for Module 7 and 8. Module 7, remember, will start on 23 August, and Module 8 will start 1 week after. And after Module 8, you will have few days to finalize all of the assessments, and with 80%, you will have the certificate for this month. Enjoy your day, and it has been a pleasure being with you in this Module 6 on the different multi-hazard assessment methodologies. See you very soon.